Welcome to The Big Idea. I'm your host, Faith Lark. Today, on The Big Idea, imagine facing a choice between justice and revenge, a battle not against your enemies, but your own people. Today, we explore how Desmond Tutu's radical vision for reconciliation ignited fierce controversy, revealing a profound truth about forgiveness that will challenge everything you think you know about healing, and the courage it takes to choose a harder path. Picture a man weeping, not the quiet tears of personal grief, but the deep, racking sobs of someone carrying the weight of a nation's pain. The year is 1996, and Archbishop Desmond Tutu has just heard another testimony at South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission. This isn't the image of a triumphant hero you might expect, yet in this moment of raw vulnerability lies the essence of true courage. What makes a man choose forgiveness when everyone around him cries for vengeance? The world remembers Tutu as the smiling archbishop who helped end apartheid. But his greatest battle came after the victory, when he dared to suggest that healing required more than punishment. It's a paradox that would define his legacy. The man who fought hardest against oppression would later be criticized for extending mercy to the oppressors. In Klerksdorp, a dusty mining town in South Africa, a small boy battled polio and tuberculosis. The doctors gave young Desmond little chance of survival. But in this crucible of suffering, something remarkable took root. Each brush with death didn't break him, it forged a deeper understanding of human fragility and resilience. You might wonder what childhood illness has to do with changing a nation. Everything. When you faced your own mortality before you're old enough to understand it, you learn that strength isn't about muscle or might. It's about getting up one more time than you fall. The clattering of minecarts provided the soundtrack to Tutu's youth, but it was the silence that spoke loudest. The forced quiet of black South Africans passing whites on the street. The muted anger in his father's classroom, where as a teacher he could only provide the limited education the apartheid system allowed. Young Desmond absorbed these daily indignities like a sponge, but unlike many who let bitterness take root, he transformed this pain into purpose. When illness prevented him from becoming a doctor, he found another way to heal, through faith and activism. Imagine standing in a pulpit, knowing your next words could land you in prison. This was Tutu's reality as he rose through the church ranks. His sermons became more than spiritual guidance, they were weapons of truth against a system built on lies. In a country where such words were considered treason, this wasn't just brave, it was revolutionary. But Tutu's revolution wasn't fought with guns or grenades. His ammunition was more powerful, moral clarity and unflinching hope. When others called for violent uprising, he insisted on peaceful resistance. This wasn't the easy path, it was the harder one, demanding more courage than picking up a weapon. The 1984 Nobel Peace Prize should have been Tutu's moment of triumph. Instead, it became a lesson in the weight of responsibility. Standing before the world's media, he didn't bask in personal glory. He spoke of those still suffering under apartheid's yoke. The medal around his neck wasn't a crown, it was a compass pointing toward harder battles ahead. If you're enjoying The Big Idea, please like, subscribe, and scan the QR code for our free 7-day email course, Mental Models Mastery. Learn to make better decisions and think like Einstein, Da Vinci, and Socrates. Now back to the episode. When apartheid finally crumbled in 1994, many expected vengeance. Instead, South Africa got something unprecedented, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. With Tutu at its helm, it offered amnesty to perpetrators who fully confessed their crimes. This wasn't justice as the world knew it, it was something far more challenging. Day after day, Tutu listened to horrific testimonies. Former security officers described torture in clinical detail. Mothers recounted children disappeared in the night. The commission heard over 21,000 statements from victims, but when Tutu broke down sobbing during one session, critics called it weakness. They didn't understand that his tears were his strength. These words became Tutu's mantra, but they also made him enemies. Victims' families accused him of being too soft on perpetrators. Former regime supporters called him a traitor to peace. Standing in the middle, Tutu absorbed the anger from both sides, understanding that true reconciliation requires making everyone uncomfortable. You might wonder, why choose such a difficult path? Because Tutu understood something profound about human nature. Revenge may satisfy for a moment, but it plants seeds for future conflict. Real healing demands more courage than retaliation. Even after apartheid, Tutu refused to stay silent. He criticized the new black government when it fell short of its promises. He championed LGBTQ+ rights when it was deeply unpopular in Africa. This wasn't just brave rhetoric, it was consistent with his core belief: human dignity is indivisible. In his later years, Tutu faced criticism from all sides. Too radical for conservatives, too forgiving for progressives. But he understood that real change isn't about making everyone happy. It's about doing what's right, even when it's unpopular. This brings us to you. Tutu's story isn't just about South Africa. It's about the choice we all face when confronted with injustice or hurt. Will you choose the easy path of retaliation or the harder road of understanding? Will you have the courage to forgive when society screams for vengeance? Remember that weeping man from the beginning. His tears weren't weakness. They were proof that strength isn't about being untouchable. It's about remaining open-hearted in a world that tries to harden you, about choosing reconciliation when revenge would be easier. Today, as you face your own conflicts and injustices, ask yourself, what would it mean to be as brave as Tutu? Not in fighting apartheid perhaps, but in choosing the harder path of understanding over anger. In standing firm when your values make others uncomfortable. In remaining soft-hearted when the world tells you to toughen up. This is Tutu's real legacy, not just the end of apartheid, but a demonstration that the most powerful revolution starts within. That true courage often looks like forgiveness. That sometimes the strongest thing you can do is weep with those who suffer, and then get up and continue working for change. What impossible forgiveness might you need to consider today? On the next episode of The Big Idea, Desmond Tutu showed us the transformative power of forgiveness and empathy in the face of injustice. But what happens when the very systems meant to protect us are the ones perpetuating harm? This week, we're exploring individuals who fought for justice and equality, and the fight doesn't end with apartheid. The next story reveals the uncomfortable truths about how deeply ingrained racism is within modern society, particularly in America. What if the ideas you hold dear are actually part of the problem? Prepare to question everything you thought you knew and discover the power of active anti-racism. This is a story of personal transformation, a battle against invisible enemies, and a beacon of hope in a world that desperately needs it. Please like, subscribe, and scan the QR code or follow the pinned link to get our free 7-day email course, Mental Models Mastery. 7 mental models used by humanity's greatest minds. Think clearer, decide faster, and spot opportunities everyone misses. Click the video that just popped up to watch the next one in this series. Or for episode summaries, behind-the-scenes info, and more, go to daily8.com/bi. Thanks for watching.